Hello, Booktube. Sorry for the lateness of the upload of this video. I literally have no excuse except for the excuse that we all have, which is that I was caught up reading. I have a few mail packages I want to show you, and they were all here hours ago. And I was here hours ago, and Frida was here hours ago. But it was nice and warm in the room, and we were the other room, and we were sprawled on the couch, and she was dozing, and I was reading, and the hours just flew by. I'm not feeling too bad, since I think you're all equally guilty, but still, this could have been for your afternoon viewing pleasure. But instead, I've got a few packages here. I'm not sanguine about this particular mail haul, Booktube, because all the packages are skinny, and thin books are by definition bad books. but we'll go through them anyway and see if maybe something can disprove them. Let's see what this first one is. Okay, this is due in a couple of weeks. Okay, I didn't request it. It is lovely. It's a lovely finished copy. It looks like it's going to be an original trade paperback. I'm all in favor of those. And what is all this folderol? Oh, good lord! It's all sorts of publicity stops on the Whistle Train tour, as if I ever leave my house. But this is due. Yeah, this is due on August 21st, and it's called "Other People's Love Affairs" by D. Whiston Owen, and it is going to be a trade paperback original, and it's got the deckled edges and the French flap. So if this actually sounds like it appeals to you, you can just go right out and buy it. It's going to be a paperback original. The paperback is actually nice looking and sturdy. So let's see what we have here. So what have we got here? Deputy editor of Threepenny Review and a graduate of the Iowa Writers Workshop. Oh God. Oh, Booktube. Someday I will tell you stories about the Iowa Writers Workshop. I'll make thy several hairs to stand on end like quills upon the fretful porpentine. To put it mildly, I know the workshop well. D. Whiston Owen. Why on earth? Why on earth not D.W. Owen? Why Whiston? Are you trying to summon Auden? Is that what's going on here? This author makes a stunning debut. Oh, great! This is a debut collection of short stories. Fantastic. Primarily set in the English seaside village of Glass in the mid to late 20th century, this collection of 10 uniquely luminous stories explores the earnest ways people extend themselves in search of connection. Inspired by authors such as Catherine Mansfield and William Trevor, big shoes to fill, good inspirations though, Owen's collection follows the classic short fiction tradition of exploring the intense dramas of everyday life. In the story called Lovers of a Kind, a young nurse, reeling from the disappearance of her mother, forges an unlikely friendship with a local vagrant. A young boy is by turns dazzled and disillusioned by a trip to the circus with his family in At the Circus. A widower revisits the cinema where, as a teenager, he and an older woman had trysts that thrilled and baffled him in the story called A Bit of Fun. And in the title story, a shopkeeper's vision of a woman he loved is upended by the startling revelations of a secret life. Each story in the collection tells the truth in its own way. Okay. The author got an MFA at the Iowa Writers Workshop in Iowa City on the banks of the Iowa River. And his fiction has appeared in Public Space, The American Scholar. Didn't know The American Scholar did fiction. Literary Hub, and the aforementioned Threepenny Review, where he is the deputy editor. He has dual citizenship in the United States and the United Kingdom, and he currently lives in North Carolina. So not only did he pick the wrong country of those two, but he picked a mighty hot area of the wrong country. Okay, well, I am definitely intrigued, and the date here is August the 21st, so I can read this now. I can read this tonight. In fact, I should, because with short story collections, you want to absorb it. With a short story collection, especially a debut, you want to do it justice. So you want to read it all, find out what's going on in every story, read with your antennae up to see if there are ticks, if there are repeated ticks, things like that. But then you want to let it sit for a while, and a few days ought to be enough. It's of course tremendously tricky what that pub sheet is describing, I have mocked many an example of the contemporary made-up stories, because the last thing they do is tell the truth about everyday life. Instead, authors routinely tell us stories about a character named Explosion. Not a character who features in Explosion, but a character whose name is Explosion, and who has all sorts of wacky adventures in the Triborough area or in Williamsburg, and the subject of how Explosion pays the rent is never brought up. But characters will say about Explosion, well, don't you wish you were an heiress? Don't you wish you were wealthy? And you're reading it and thinking, well, okay, that implies you're not. And if you're not, then how is it that you don't work 10 hours a day like everybody else? And so on and so forth. Characters meet identical twins. Characters meet identical triplets. Characters fall in front of subways and are rescued by workers who turn out to be their fathers. Things that wild, extravagant, idiotic coincidences and outre overwriting that characterizes contemporary fiction. It's not a bug of contemporary fiction. It's a feature. It is part of the description of contemporary fiction. I know of almost no writers who dispense with it anymore. So, as I've said on this channel many times, what used to be taken for granted, I used to absolutely take it as given. Now I consider an actually very good litmus test of whether or not an author has any talent at all. And that is, put two characters at a kitchen table where nothing happens except them talking and keep my interest for 10 pages. If you can do that, and neither one of the characters has an epileptic fit, neither one of the characters suddenly has an eel slide out of their ear, there are no planes crashing directly outside where they're the only survivors, the apocalypse doesn't happen right outside the door, nothing like that. Two characters sitting at a table talking, you keep my interest for 10 pages. William Trevor could do that in his sleep. Catherine Mansfield could do that in her sleep. So those are his pub sheet uses them as his exemplars. So I can't wait to see if it happens. It would be a huge refreshment if it did. And there is our author. Looking a bit smug, but if you had an MFA from Iowa, you'd probably look smug too. So, all right, good. That's a great way to start. Not only a debut, and not only a debut that promises real people instead of the many adventures of Explosion Jones, but also a beautifully produced paperback, something that where I don't have to say to an audience of I've got an audience of eager readers here. You're all going to hear that description. I don't have to say, well, if you wait long enough, maybe your library will order it. It's going to come out as a paperback for $16. So wonderful. All right, that's a good start. Let's move on here. Aha. Okay, this is probably due soon too. Oh no, this is due in October. All right, this is. I always feel guilty about this series, ironically enough. Okay. This is by William Broderick, and it is The Silent Ones, a new Father Anselm mystery. Put out by Overlook Press in New York. Just a tiny hint to the folks at Overlook Press on your advance copy. Probably don't want to put the shiny sticker directly over the author's name when this space fits fine. But these feature, well, let me read it to you here. In The Silent Ones, William Broderick tackles head-on the topical and sensitive social issue that's become the modern scourge of the church to create an intricate thriller that's as devastating as it is impactful. Impactful is not a word. Father Anselm, that's the main character, is enlisted to trace missing Father Livermore, an American priest with a troubled past, who disappeared following shocking allegations made against him by the family of 11-year-old Harry Brandwell. Okay, the father's named Livermore, the kid is named Brandwell. Okay, well, it worked for Trollope, but that was a long time ago. Let's see here. But a mysterious visitor to the priory urges Father Anselm to find out why Harry is prepared to blame an innocent man. Anselm finds himself on the trail of an impostor, unaware that he's being drawn into the shadow of a mysterious conspiracy. And William Broderick was an Augustinian friar before leaving the order to become a lawyer and a novelist. And he's written a few Father Anselm mysteries. And I don't know why they haven't worked on me. I don't. What were the names of the others? Do we have a convenient list here? Discovery of the Discourtesy of Death, A Whispered Name, The Day of the Lie, The Gardens of the Dead, and The Sixth Lamentation. All of those came before this one. And I don't know why these things have not worked on me. I've racked my brains. The premise, the character, the writing style of the author, I've read a couple of the books. I don't know why they don't do it. I don't know why, with this series, I don't open an envelope containing the latest one and squeal with delight. I've floated all sorts of possibilities. Maybe it's a little too close to home. Maybe it's that for some mysterious reason, some reason that after 6 books, I simply cannot fathom why Overlook gives these books these covers. They're always this sort of dun beige color. They're always ineptly hand-drawn. I don't know why. Every one of them looks like this, and I don't know why that is. You put your hand over the Overlook colophon, and you remove the sticker so that you can read the author's name, and you would look at this thing and think, no offense to them, but you would look at this thing and think self-published. You would think this is an indie book, something that you would find, on the opposite listings on your Nook bookstore or your Kindle bookstore, and it shouldn't. These things matter. This is, mainstream publishing is the big leagues. So I don't know. Probably there'll be some of you who will say you like this cover or this style, but that just is dead to me. It's just inert. So part of me thought maybe it's the cover, but every time I get one of these, I think I circle around it thinking, oh, I feel like I've offended the author, even though we've had no contact whatsoever. And I sometimes wonder, I think after, which one was it? Which one was it that came the closest? One of them came close to working. Gardens of the Dead came close to working. I was involved a bit, but it still felt inert at the end. And when I read that book, I actually thought, maybe I should just contact the author and have a talk, maybe even an interview with the author, and maybe that would do it. I don't know what it is. This is definitely a case, doesn't happen often on this channel, but this is definitely a case where a series of the latest of a book in series, a series of books, has not worked on me, but I am not blaming the series. This is definitely a case where I am not blaming the series. This could easily be me. It's a big question mark. So I will let this percolate all summer long, and then in the autumn I will read it. Maybe I will talk to the author, especially if I can get up and running a regular thing, talking to authors on this channel. Wouldn't that be fun to talk to some people, especially the authors that maybe are, second or third tier? Those of you who are self-published authors out there will know the uphill game that all authors are up against. They would, I think, welcome the chance to talk to 4,000 avid readers and to talk with an avid reader himself. I'm determined to give it a try. And I made a video asking you if you would be interested in that. The overwhelming response was yes, you would be. And why wouldn't you be? It'd be so much fun. Authors are wonderful in person. They're absolutely wonderful to talk to in person, provided you know what you're doing. And I have interviewed many people, many people, not just authors, but all sorts of other artistic folk. And Adam Mentamori left a comment on that channel saying, "What about who cares about authors? What about interviewing booktubers?" That would be possible too. That also would be kind of fun. The booktubers who will have anything to do with me, of course, there's still a substantial group of booktubers out there who won't have anything to do with me. I wouldn't be interviewing them, much though I'd have a million questions for them. But anyway, I'll let this percolate for the summer. I won't think about it. I'll just put it on the pile. And then in the autumn, I will go into the confessional of Father Anselm yet again, asking for forgiveness that I do not particularly love his books. So let's see. Okay, this is this is new to me. This is from Capo Press, great Boston publisher. It's by Claire Bidwell Smith, and it is Anxiety: The Missing Stage of Grief. Obviously a reference there to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, right, and the 5 stages of grief. The pub sheet starts off, "Dear editor / reporter / producer." Book reviewers don't even get a mention. They're not even addressed. I tell you. While the grieving process is unique to every individual, What remains constant are the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Okay, so yes. But according to the author, there is a sixth, little recognized stage, and that is anxiety. Studies show that in the past year, the staggering 18% of Americans who have suffered from anxiety, and this number has been growing annually. Good Lord. 20% of the American population reports having suffered from anxiety? Oy. Smith posits that despite its prevalence, most people don't understand anxiety's connection to loss or how to properly cope with grief-induced anxiety. As she makes clear, anxiety that stems from loss can have a long-lasting impact on an individual's life, far beyond the initial stages of grief. The author is a grief therapist with her own practice in Los Angeles. She encourages us to recognize that while not all losses are anxiety-producing, the ones that make us feel our own mortality, or that buck the natural order of things, often are. I see. Okay, so somebody your own age, a friend of your exact age, dies, or a child, God forbid, dies. The sudden loss, the loss due to trauma, the loss of a child, the losses of our greatest supporters. She shows how once we begin to recognize the cause of our anxiety, we can employ tools like meditation and mindfulness to not only conquer it, but begin to accept the loss and process our grief in a healthier way. Okay, this comes out in September. This is so it's a new study of grief, not just all of the recognized 5 stages, not just the pain of grief, but when you lose someone who is a load-bearing column, when you lose someone whose loss is, I guess, not sufficiently prepared, not sufficiently grounded. Okay. Well, I'll have to see. I'll have to see. This again. This is another one that I will let just sit until the autumn. That's fascinating, though. Anxiety of grief. All right. Well, let's move on here. What's this next one? Oh, good God. Quite literally. Oh, good God. Oh, my. Oh, my. Okay. Again, I did not request this, but this is as close to a Steve book as we've had so far. Ay. Oh, this is... Okay. All right. Let me... This comes out in November. Let me show you the finished copy here. The cover is God in the Quran by Jack Miles, who did God, a biography, and also Christ. He did a book called Christ, which was about a crisis in the life of God. And now he's doing, I guess this is the natural third thing here. It's the capstone to a trilogy on the protagonists, the various versions of God at the heart of the Abrahamic scriptures. Miles has drawn an erudite, hugely informative portrait of the God of Islam, the world's second largest, fastest growing, and perhaps tragically misunderstood religion. In the Quran, Allah revises and perfects. His purpose is to make whole what had been corrupted or lost from the practice and scriptures of Judaism and Christianity. Setting passages from the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament, and the Quran side by side, Miles shows us that what is unique about Allah, his teachings, and his temperament, and in doing so revises that which is false, distorted, or simply absent from our conception of the heart of Islam. He hopes that his readers, quote, may find it a little easier to trust the Muslim next door, thinking of him as someone whose religion, after all, may not be so wildly unreasonable that someone holding it could not be a trusted friend. Okay. Wow. All right. Good Lord. Okay, I did not see this coming. I am fascinated, but I don't know. I mean, it's all well and good. It's in fact praiseworthy to talk about trusting the Muslim next door. But the whole reason why the pub sheet pitches itself in the tenor that it does is because it's not as possible to do that anymore as it was when, for instance, Jack Miles wrote God, a biography. That was a long time ago. It's not as possible to do that, and if you don't, you're not automatically entirely being a bigot. But okay, all right. I imagine he will treat that in an intelligent way. This is something I want to read right away. I absolutely cannot recommend strongly enough his other two books in what is now a trilogy. I absolutely cannot recommend strongly enough God, a Biography, or Christ, A Crisis in the Life of God. God, a Biography does something that I didn't think the author could pull off, where he just reads the Hebrew Bible straight, just chronologically straight, in order to show us God as a character developing in that narrative. And that's it. I mean, it's a tremendously informed book, but that is its conceit, that we will read this as the study of a character. And it's amazing, just amazing. I have a copy on the shelf. I have tons and tons of underlinings and notes and annotations. It's an amazing book. And the Christ book is very nearly as good. And I'm not 100% sure that I have Christ, A Crisis in the Life of God. I know that I have God, a Biography, but I don't know that I have the second one. And this is another perfect example of this. This is very, very much the same kind of cover. That's a kind of nice design. But this is another example where this is coming out in November, I think. Yeah, November. And between then and now, we will see if my various used bookstore haunts, the charity shops or the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston, will provide a copy of Christ. I bet it will. I bet that will happen. That's just the synchronicity of the Brattle. And then we have this last one in a cardboard container here, and then we'll be done. What is this? Oh, God, it's another book that I didn't request. Is this? Oh, my God, it is. Okay, so this entire mail haul is books that I did not request. And that's strange for me. I mean, I know a lot of booktubers get books in the mail that they don't request, but I do a lot of book requesting. Wow, okay, all right, so this comes out in early August. It is another paperback original, and it's by Malin Person Giolito, and it's called Quicksand. It has an illuminated swimming pool on the cover, and then above the title is a young woman, and it's a fatal lack of confidence. Is what it is. It's a fatal overloading due to a lack of confidence. The best cover for this book would be just the pool. Just the pool extending the whole cover. Maybe since the Quicksand is typography, the typography of Quicksand is a little blurred, maybe put it in the bottom of the pool as the pool is extending, narrowing towards the top of the cover, rather than anything else. Rather, just that. The evocative power of that image alone in a black background will, I assure whoever designed this cover, will do the work that you're expecting to be done by doubling up on the theme of the cover. But anyway, let's see here. God, I don't... Okay, so is this Scandinavian crime? Soon to be a Netflix original series. A mass shooting has taken place at a prep school in Stockholm's wealthiest suburb. 18-year-old Maja Norberg is charged for her involvement in the massacre that left her boyfriend and her best friend dead. She has spent 9 months in jail awaiting trial. Now the time has come for her to enter the courtroom. How did she, popular, privileged, and a top student, become a cold-blooded killer in the eyes of the public? And what did she do? Or is it that what she failed to do that brought her here? And the author has worked as a lawyer for the biggest law firm in the Nordic region and as an official for the European Commission in Brussels. Now a full-time writer, she has written 4 novels, including Quicksand, and she lives with her husband and 3 daughters in Brussels. Okay, so is this a translation? Is this translated from the Swedish? It is. It's translated from the Swedish by Rachel Wilson Broyles, and it came out originally in 2016. So those of you who are in Sweden, do you know this author? Do you know this book, perhaps? One way or another, it's a paperback original. It's coming up right around the corner, so I can just grab it. That means 2 from this mail haul that I'll just read tonight. That's wonderful. So we have Quicksand. We have God in the Quran. Oh my. that is the Steve Book winner of the day. Then Anxiety, the missing stage of grief. The Silent Ones, another father and son mystery. And Other People's Love Affairs by D. Whiston Owen. an entirely non-requested mail haul. Incredible. But none the worse for that. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, Booktube.